Comic Book Savant, episode 384. Welcome back to the Comic Book Savant podcast. I'm your host, James Harris. This episode, we're going to do something a little bit different. Every now and again, I like to do more of a discussion piece that's something maybe not directly related to comic books in a normal sense on how I cover things, but something that is tied in, but just not as directly or just a straight-on comic book episode. But before I get into all of that, as always, I'd like to give a shout-out to my friends over at the Comics Podcast Network. You can find them over at comicpodcast.com. If you like listening to the content that I provide and you want to find more comic book related content, it's a one-stop shop that you can go to where you literally can find hundreds of different podcasters there for you to check out. You can find podcasts listed to particular publishers, characters, teams, you name it, they pretty much have it, and literally there are hundreds of shows to pick from to try out. So if you like the content that I do and you're curious to find more shows, it's a real easy place to go. So if you have a moment, check out the Comics Podcast Network over at comicspodcast.com. And last but not least, I'd like to give a shout out to the sponsor for the episode, which is InStockTrades.com. It's basically one of the best places you want to go online when you're looking for any type of trade paperback, omnibus, collected edition of any sort, hardcover, Marvel Masterworks, Absolute Editions, anything that's bound. Also like special issues as well, because they do anime. They also do special things like Action Comics 1000. I actually placed an order recently and was able to get that from there because I couldn't find it at the comic shop. So definitely all types of bound editions you can find over at InStockTrades.com. They have great prices, discounts ranging from 35 to 42 to up to 50% off. If you're a U.S.-based customer, you place an order $50 or more, you get free shipping, but that's only for U.S.-based customers. But they do have international shipping, so if you happen to live outside of the U.S., you still get all the great savings, and they have some of the most competitive international shipping rates around. So definitely, if you're in the market to buy some trades, definitely take a moment to stop by InStockTrades.com and check them out. And if you happen to do use their service, definitely let them know you heard about them here first on the Comic Book Savant podcast. That'll go a long way to help me and support the show. Now, with all that out of the way, I wanted to talk about the movie-going experience. We have more and more comic book related and based movies coming out year after year. It's been ramping up over the past, 5 years or so. Back in the day, we got maybe one or, two, maybe three. Now this year we've had 6, 7, 8, even you have offshoots, just like I just did a review earlier this week for The Incredibles 2, and me as a podcaster, I try to plan out content as much as advance. So, when I hear about every comic book movie, you plan on, okay, when I'm going to go see it so I can do the review. And it's become, very much daunting. I've talked about previously in videos and also in the podcast as well about that. Me and my wife heard about MoviePass the very end of last year, maybe October last year of 2017, and we both signed up for that because for some reason they don't have family accounts, but so we both signed up for individual accounts, and because it was just like it's an expensive proposition going to the movies, even as a comic fan, for me, I've been doing this for 12 years, and I've met people in the industry. I don't get any credentials. I'm just like, anyone else. I have to pay to go to the movies. If I want to review them, I have to pay to go see them. I haven't gotten to that level yet that some people, are able to go see press screenings or get screeners sent to them to watch at home. I don't have that luxury, so I have to pony up like everybody else to get out to go to the movies. So it can be challenging just from a perspective that it's kind of like an investment for me, because I'm going to create content for you guys. So it's definitely can be an expensive proposition, and at times, previously before we found out about MoviePass, certain times I had to pick and choose certain reviews or wait to do other reviews because it was just too expensive to constantly go. Because, of course, if I go, me and my wife, she's a big movie lover. And, over the soon to be 8 years of marriage, she has, really gotten into the comic book genre just because of me and gotten into more comic book, cartoons and movies and such. So, for the two of us to go, it can be, especially when you think about everything that goes with going to the movies. And, I talked to different people. I talked to about 10 to 12 different people through, that are listeners of the show, through the Facebook group, just direct conversations, or, I think I posted on one point at Twitter and on Facebook as well. So this is a consensus of just different people that I talked to kind of get their view on the subject, because we all want to see, especially for us, we've been fans of comics for so long. So to start seeing things that we never thought we would see happen on screen, or movies we ever thought would see, no one ever thought we would get an Infinity War. We were in awe 10 years ago when we got the first Iron Man movie, and that they were able to finally make that happen, or a Hulk movie. And we've so much, surpassed that by leaps and bounds at this point. It's amazing. So with that, you want to have that theater experience. We know we're going to buy most of these movies, even when they're crappy. We still end up buying them because we love it. It's just like with us collecting comics. We're going to collect the comic book movies as well. So, definitely it is, it is a challenge. But like I said, time, because we have to find the time to be able to go see these movies. Because, now, it's like week after week after week. I know for me, personally, I've gone to the movies because of MoviePass. And if you're unfamiliar with MoviePass, they're not sponsoring this episode. You can find them at, I think, www.moviepass.com if you're interested. But it's a cool service. You pay like $9.90, I think it's $9.99 a month, and you're able to go see at least one movie a day, every day. You're limited to one movie a day. You cannot go back and do a repeat viewing of a movie ever. So, like, if you went on MoviePass and went to go see like Avengers: Infinity War, you couldn't go back the next day to see that. They've been kind of wonky on that, because when I first signed up, you couldn't go see a movie twice. Then they relaxed that and you could, and then they changed it back now where you can't. A lot of people probably have heard about MoviePass. It's been all over the news for different controversial things and them fighting back and forth with certain theater chains and so forth. Some people have had great experiences, like myself. Other people have had some negative experiences with MoviePass. My experience with them have been relatively good. Now, the customer service is slow as all get out. I've had a few issues where I needed to contact customer service. I think maybe twice. Like one time it took them literally, I think from the day I sent the message within app till they responded was like 2 months or something like that. It was something crazy, but they've gotten better. The last time I contacted customer service, it took like a day or two for them to respond back. So that's a lot better than 2 months. But, basically, you sign up for the service. You pay the $9.99 a month. They mail you a card, like a debit card or what have you. And how it works in the basic application, because how I use it is a little bit different. Once you get your card, you have an app that you put on your phone. And you basically, when you go to, they'll see a list of participating movie theaters in your area. Like, it uses your GPS to ping out the participating theaters. In most cities, especially bigger cities, it's pretty much like every theater. I'm in a pretty large city, and it's I can find a movie theater pretty much anywhere. So you go into the app, and once you get in the vicinity of the particular theater you want to go to, you go into the app, you pick that theater, you check in, like you're using, Yelp or, Pinterest or something like that. You're going to just go in, check into the location. It'll show you the list of movies that are available and the show times. You pick the show time you want. They'll load the dollar amount for the ticket onto your card. Then if you go to the kiosk or you go to the register, then you just slide your card like you would a normal credit card, and you swipe it, boom, boom, boom. It pays for the ticket. You get your ticket. Now, you do have certain restrictions with MoviePass as far as you can't go see like 3D shows or any like premium showings of a movie. And it's cool because before I don't think they had restrictions in the app, but now they'll let you know you're like, if this show is you're not eligible to use it for that show. So it's just your standard movie-going experience that you can get your tickets for. Now they're partnered with it's just maybe 2 or 3 chains where you can actually do your tickets online. You can't do them in advance, and this is another nuance to MoviePass. It's a nuance to it. So one of the theater chains, the one that I go to in particular, is Studio Movie Grill. They have locations all across the country, a few in each state here and there. They have quite a few locations, and they're growing. It's one of those chains that they do dine in while you watch the movie, which is really cool. I got exposed to them about 4 years ago, and it's been the only movie theater that I go to now, or at least close to almost the past 4 years. I don't think I've been to any other theater. It's multiple in my city. So as we've moved around the city, I'll just go to whatever the closest location for this chain is for me. The cool thing about it on MoviePass, they're partnered, so I don't have to do the whole check-in and swipe my card and do all that. Long as it's I go into the app the day of. So long as it's like, say, if I know I'm going to the movies, like most of the time, me and my wife, we try to go when it's the least busy. So if we normally go, we go like on the weekend, first thing in the morning, like the first show of the day. We try to go get our movie going experience out of the way and get out before the theaters get crazy. So like I'll stay up, past midnight or whatever. Sometimes it takes the app a little while to turn over for the next day. As soon as it turns over for the next day, I can go to the theater on the app, pick my ticket, and you have reserved seating, so then I can, pick my seat. My wife will do the same thing. We'll pick our seats, reserve our seats. They give you a confirmation number and a barcode. They've added this barcode scanning recently, so then all I have to do when I get to the theater that next morning is pull open the app. They have a little tab for reservations. It'll have my, it'll pull it back up, my ticket, and I have the number. So if if the scanner doesn't work, I can, just type in the confirmation number and boom, the ticket pops out and I go into the movie. I've never swiped my card one time since I've had MoviePass, but that's 2 fundamental ways. But it's only, like I said, I think 3 movie chains that you have that ability to do it with MoviePass. So it's been very useful. It's saved us as a family a ton of money from the movies we go to, because even when we signed up, that was when they were first changing over, because MoviePass had been around for years, and their service was way more expensive. And they launched this time, last year, and they caught a lot of news when they dropped to $9.99 a month. But right after we signed up, they sent us an email and was like, hey, if you want to pay for the service for the whole year, you pay like, I want to say it was like $69.99, so it was like $30 off. So we both signed up for that deal. We paid for the year up front. And when that was in October, we're now in, mid-June. I've seen, somewhere, I want to say I've seen somewhere around, I've been to the movies somewhere around about 20 times now. I'm like 18, 19 movies, maybe 20 now, because when I originally was writing this up and doing my notes for this, I think when I counted, I actually went into the app because they keep track of your history. I think it was 18, but I think since then I've been to see The Incredibles 2, and Ocean's 8. So I think I've been to about 20 movies. I normally don't go to 20 movies in a run of a year. I normally, will go see, the big comic book movies because I review them. And I'll, catch an occasion, some occasional, movies, but it's been limited. I've probably gone to double the amount of movies I probably normally would if I didn't have this, prepaid, account that saves me money, because, otherwise at a pop for, tickets, and because it's dine-in, and most people either go to eat, before or after they go to the movies. You're talking about, just for the two of us, we're spending probably, for tickets and food, $50-$60 easy, maybe $65 altogether. So that can get expensive. I have, one of my best friends, he has, a family of, 5. He has 3 kids, and him and his wife. For him, it's easy, close to, doing that same thing. It's about, I think he told me, maybe if they don't eat before or after the movie, just tickets and maybe some concessions, just the minimum, like popcorn and soda. And a lot of times, because they're a family, they'll do, like, the youngest will get his own little, like, kid slushie or something like that. Then the bigger kids and him and his wife will split, like, a large soda a piece, and then, a large popcorn a piece. Like, easy for them, even with that minimum, that's about $65 to $70. And then if they're going to eat, they're pushing close to like $100 for a family of 5 to go see a movie and potentially eat something. That's insane. You know what I mean? That's that's very expensive. So, for him, he'll wait till I see stuff, and he'll ask me, like, is this really worth seeing, or can I wait to go see it? He has to weigh that, because that's a huge investment. You just can't go to the movies every week when you're dropping potentially $100, a pop. That's a lot. I've talked to other people where they have other obstacles. Like, I'm fortunate I'm in a huge city. So for me, I have a ton of movie theaters everywhere. I talked to one of my longtime listeners and a good friend, Matthew Guy. He's in my Facebook group, and I was asking him, and he was like, for him, it's different. I want to think Matthew's in Louisiana, but where he is, like if he wants to go to like a good theater that has most movies, he was like, that it's like a drive for him, where he has to drive, like, round trip. It's like, I think he said it's like a half an hour to an hour drive just to get to the theater if he wants to go see something. So he has to really weigh it out, how worth it is it. That's an investment when you got to drive that far. And I've heard that from different people, that if you're not in larger cities, or certain movies you want to see, if they're not like the bigger, films, like you might have to drive some distance. I've done it here and there. I mean, I think the 2 times I remember most having to go outside of my city to see something is a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago. My wife wanted to see Book Club, and it wasn't playing where we stayed, but we drove like a half an hour. Like, it's about a half an hour away to see it, because she really wanted to see the movie, and that was the only theater that had it in the vicinity close by. That was a close drive to see the movie, and we did that. Way back in 2010, I wanted to see Kick-Ass when it came out, and I was in a city too, because I think I was in Connecticut at the time, because it was right when me and her, right after we got married, I want to say. And we rode about half an hour, 40 minutes to this like really small, horrible theater, but it was the only theater like in Connecticut that had Kick-Ass, just to see that movie, because I wanted to see it. And I think it was close to my birthday, and she surprised me and took me to the theater to see it. But it was like the crummiest theater I had been to in like so long. But, that's the only 2 times I personally have encountered that. But to do that all the time, I definitely, and for, Matthew, and shout out, to him. He's been with me. He's been one of my day one people. For Matthew, like you said, he has to, pick and choose what he sees based on, on that. And I totally like respect that. Like for him, he just waits for things to come out on home video. If it's something really, really big and he's willing to, make that pilgrimage, he does it. But I can totally understand, like, that's not something you always want to do. That's just real talk. And I posted, also asking, like, is it a price thing that prevents you from going to the movies? Is it a distance thing? Like, what are the inhibitors of being a comics fan, wanting to see the movies, and then the movie theater experience itself has like changed so drastically. Times are now, so many people are so. And not necessarily that they mean to be, it's just kind of the society that we live in now is that, you got to contend with cell phones. I've personally seen more and more, like, and it bothered me, and I think I talked about it in my review of Deadpool 2, where I saw, like, that's a hard R movie, you know what I'm saying? And I saw kids that were way underage. Like, I'm not talking about, like, like it's PG-13 and you got like maybe a 10, 11, 12-year-old accompanied with a parent. I saw kids that were like 8, 7 years old, like where I was, little, even some little babies. And I was like, I understand it can be hard, if you have, small kids. I haven't had kids of my own. I'm a father through marriage, so I'm a stepfather, but I'm a grandfather, and I've been involved in my grandson's life since the moment he was born. So I understand certain things, and with certain situations where my daughter wanted to go see a movie, and she might didn't want to ask like me or her mom to watch him, and was going to take him, but I was like, no, we'll watch him, just go enjoy yourself. So I know it can probably be hard sometimes to find people to maybe watch your kid and get a babysitter, but I'm like, you don't expose a small kid to like a hard, super dark, stuff. Like I've gotten so more sensitive to that in the 6.5 years of being a grandfather of the material that I watch and what I expose to my my grandson. I always have been since he's been born. Like I just didn't watch certain stuff because he would come in. When he would come visit, he would come into my room, and if I was watching something like a movie to review, like, or, reviewing an older movie or rewatching something, or even a cartoon, like a DC animated movie that can get kind of edgy, I would cut it off, and, I would just shift my attention to him, and, I could always go back to it later. That's what a pause button is for. And so I've seen these things that are troubling to me, and of course the cell phone things, and sometimes even people playing games on their phone while the dang on movie's going on, and the light flashing, being a distraction. So many different things and elements to it that add to outside of the price, being the availability, just the actual experience itself. I'm fortunate because, like I said, I go to kind of this dine-in experience, and I had never had been to one before till I moved a few years ago, and my wife had moved to the area first, so she had already been, and she kept raving about, you gotta go to Studio Movie Girl. It's like, this is awesome. Gonna take you as soon as you get here. We're gonna go. And she took me. I think the first movie I saw was like John Wick, and I was like, how's this gonna work? How the theater is laid out is like they got the alternating rows, and they have like long bar areas, and they have then certain school seats. Like you sit back in the seat, and then you have like the arm that you put in front of you. So like you can they bring you your food. You have a menu. You have a button. You press the button. They come. You can pay in cash, and you start a tab where they swipe your card, and they have a whole a awesome menu. And they switch the menu once a year. They'll switch out their menu and jazz it up a little bit, and you can order you can order alcohol, and they bring it to you. You can order the food, salads, all different kinds of beers. They have beers on tap, the whole nine. It's a fully functioning, full service experience, and they bring your food out. It's non-disruptive to you watching your movie. The whole nine. I was kind of skeptical of it, and it's reasonable. They have they even have food specials. So if you're a couple, they got it used to be 2 for $25. It's 2 for $28, where you get an appetizer that you share, and then you get 2 entrees, and then you just buy your drink. Little stuff like that that's cool. That has made it just reasonable, because when me and her normally would go to the movies, we normally went before or after, or we went before and snuck food in. So, and it would cost just as much, and the food wasn't as good. I have to say, they really have good food there. So it's a whole, different thing. So it's an experience. So we enjoy going. Now, do we eat every time we go? No, about every other time. Like if we just, because we have Movie Pass and we're going to see something we normally wouldn't go see, sometimes we won't eat. But if it's like a big movie, like Avengers Infinity War, something like that, normally it's like that's the experience we want. We're dialing into the movie. We don't want to have to worry about, stomach is growling. We'll do the the dining experience. And since we have Movie Pass, then we're just paying for the food, because our tickets, we've already paid for that for the year. So once we do that, we're only really paying for the food. So that keeps that down. So we're saving like probably $20 alone just on tickets. So then that cuts our expense down to just food and tip, which is kind of cool. So when it goes to the young babies and the different things, it kills the immersion into the film. We got kids crying and all that kind of stuff. I know for me personally, and also too, I'm older. I can't hold my my bowels anymore, my bladder. Certain times I get up in a movie and I hate that. And I'll never forget, because I was so embarrassed when I did the Force Awakens review that I said something wrong in the review based on the fact that I had to go take a pee or make TT, as they say in Daddy's Home too. I had to go TT, and I missed. I swear I wasn't even gone 5 minutes. I might have been gone 3 minutes or something like that. But I missed the part when Han Solo was explaining everything to Rey and Finn on the plane. And I remember stating in my review that was one of my biggest problems in the movie. And this is the thing. I went. My wife stayed. I went, came back. Did I miss anything? She's like, no, you didn't miss anything. And then, like, when it came out on whole video, I was like, yo, I thought you said I didn't miss anything. I missed, like, the most important little spiel in the whole movie. And I told you I had a problem. And it's like, but she's like, oh, I forgot. I was like, So, and I felt so dumb. I felt so dumb as a reviewer, because normally that doesn't happen to me. But for whatever reason, this one time, I broke and I had to run to the bathroom. And then I came up short when I reviewed, and I felt so embarrassed, because I don't tend to do that at movie theaters. So it started, about 10 years ago, at least, maybe a little bit longer ago. One of my best friends got in the home theater, because again, he's the same friend that I was talking about that has the family of 5. That for him, because his kids were a little bit younger, he got into the whole home theater setup and game. So because they were younger, and they really at the time they were far away from like any family. So they really, outside of trying to find a babysitter for 3 kids at the last minute when they wanted to go to the movies, sometime I would help babysit the kids when I could, to kind of, so him and his wife could go to the movies. But he would have to wait for certain things to they would make that sacrifice and just wait for things to come out. So he built up a home theater with the surround sound speakers, so they could kind of have, as a family, have a movie going experience at home. And, that worked, and he kind of turned me on to it. So, I started doing, like, at one point I got mega obsessed with, like, home theater systems. Like, at one point I had, like, an 8.1, I jerry-rigged and had, like, an 8.1 surround sound setup at one point, with the whole, what are they called, receiver. Like, I went all out. Like, I had a stupid setup. Like, at one point, it was, like, too much. But then when I went digital, I kind of ditched the receiver, and I had, the multi-disc DVD changer, like a 5-disc changer. Then I went to Blu-ray. I had all that stuff. And, I talk about it all the time, just like with comics, that I'm primarily digital with all my media, like movies, comics, like all the video games, all that kind of stuff. I just went mainly digital with everything across the board. So it has advanced over that 10 years plus, that you can have really good setups at home. And I'm curious about you guys. So for me, it start being a competition, because certain times you go to certain theaters, and I've had this experience. I know we all have, that they're not that clean. The chairs are not that comfortable. If you do want concessions, if you don't have a situation where you can just, like what I do with this particular theater, and you're seeing they're becoming more and more popular, like these dine-in theaters, the experience can be better at home. Now you can buy 60, 70, 80 inch, TVs. I mean, just in my home alone, I have, here in my little man cave / office / podcasting area, I have, but I have like a 55-inch TV, which is, more than enough in our living room, because we recently set up our living room as our home theater setup. We kind of had neglected it for a while, and we wanted to try out 4K. So we had like a 60 or 65-inch 4K TV, got an Apple TV 4K, like decked it out. I ditched the whole speaker setup, because again, especially if you go from a home to an apartment, just different living situations, like that's a lot of work to set that up and move that around constantly. I kind of stopped being a super duper AV snob, and kind of I reserve everything to pretty much like sound bars now. So like I'll slap a sound bar up under the TV, and sound bars are pretty cool. I'll always get at least a sound bar that has like a wireless subwoofer. And here in my office, I have a sound bar that has a subwoofer, and then it has 2 additional speakers. That the subwoofer is wireless, but the 2 surround sound speakers are wired into the subwoofer, and I kind of have my opposing ends of my desk that I'm recording and doing all this stuff now around me, and it gives a pretty darn good immersive experience. And it's way cheaper than what you would pay for a receiver and a sub and 5 or 6 speakers. Trust me, I know. End up giving my surround sound speakers away, because it's after a while and moving around, I didn't want to keep lugging them around, and I didn't want to keep setting them up. So I got rid of them and just literally gave them away to the moving guys. And I mean, I gave away something that I paid like $2,000 for initially, and just gave it away because I had no use for it, and I wasn't trying to sell and ship a huge speaker set. So it was just like, you want this? Here, you can take it. It all works. I gave them the cables and everything, and just went more minimalist. So I have a pretty good setup. Even in our bedroom, we have like I think it's a 60-inch, 1080p. I primarily use Apple stuff, so I have Apple TVs in every room. So, and like I have I rebuilt most of my movie collections. I have like close to 500 movies digitally through like iTunes. So I love that convenience, and I love I can pause it. I have surround sound. I have the visual quality. I have a big screen. I could be in, if I'm in my bedroom, I'm in the comfort of my bed. In the living room, we have a nice living room set with the reclining chairs. Some now I've been at certain movie theaters and they have that, and that's awesome. So, that's cool. You have the reclining chairs. I have that at home. So I have a really immersive, experience in, I could pause and replay something if I missed something or my wife missed something, or if we want to talk about a certain point in the movie. It's just way more convenient. And plus, too, we're seeing with the advent of digital that movies are coming out faster and faster from the theater, to home video. So like certain times you see with Black Panther was still out in the movie theater for Christ's sake, and it was out on DVD and it was out on digital. Avengers Infinity War more than likely will be still in theaters when it comes out. They announced the date. I can't remember when it comes out digitally, but I think it comes out on Blu-ray like on August 14th. And it's like more than likely, because when it came out, Avengers Infinity War came out May like more than likely, just like Black Panther was, it will still be in theaters and it'll be out on home video. We're seeing that line blur. Before it would be 6 months. Sometimes it felt like a year before a movie was in theaters till it was on home video. That window gets shorter and shorter as more as time passes, and I wonder, will that be better for some people? Like if you could see, even if it was just you couldn't buy it per se, you could rent a movie through, iTunes or Amazon when it came out, would it be more cost effective? Even if they did it for honestly, if a movie day and date of release on the movie theaters, if we could pay even $20 for it or $15 for it, to be able to watch it at home, and you just have iTunes, iTunes and I've used both Amazon as well as iTunes. They'll have rentals, like you pay various amounts. Like sometimes they'll have specials that they're 99 cents. And I think once you rent it, you have 30 days to watch it. And after you start watching the movie, you have 48 hours access to the movie before you'll lose access to the movie. I think that's cool. You could do something like that, even if it was instead of 99 cent, $2.99, $3.99, or even like $6.99. Maybe it was $10.99, $14.99. Like I think because two movie tickets, depending where you're going nowadays, if you go into one of those premium theater experiences, you might be paying $25 a ticket. So if you're paying like $15 or even $20 to have access to, I can watch that movie 2 or 3 times in 48 hours, you know what I'm saying, and really go back and watch the movie and enjoy it, so be it. I pay 15 or even 20. I don't know if I would pay over $20, but I think that sweet spot would be between $10 to $20 for that. And I'm going to pose this question out there to you guys. If you had that as an option, do you think you would watch more, especially because we're all talking about in the realm of comic book movies, and we're only going to get more and more, or just look at the movies that we cover here, not even comic book movies, but we still have stuff that pops up like that's comic book related, like The Incredibles. We have the fantasy stuff that's Star Wars, and then we have other off-brand that are movies that are related to TV series that went to comics, like Power Rangers and Transformers. All of them are still kind of in the Pacific Rim, because now I'm seeing comics on that. I haven't read it yet, but they got a John Wick comic book, for God's sakes. Now it's like everybody's getting their own comics now, so they're kind of tied into the medium. So then those are movies we kind of that fall under this, my purview of being a, comics podcaster and talking about everything in the comics industry. More and more of those movies you could say are tied in to the comic book industry that we might want to see. So if you had an alternate option like that, would that be something you would consider? Do you have a home theater set up? I'm curious about that as well. Like I said, I'm, back my core, just because as far as what I went to school for in the industries I've worked in over the years, I'm a huge techie, so I love gadgets and stuff. I think, like most things, it's just like the movie going experience. Like for me, going to the movies was such a huge event when I was a kid. And this was the weird thing about growing up. Both of my parents were huge fans of cinema, but neither one of them ever went to the movies. But they loved watching movies on, VHS and DVD, but they never, I'm going to be honest, I never went to a movie because my parents divorced when I was super young. So I never really lived with my mom, like in a traditional sense. But I spent tons of time with my dad over the years, especially later in his life, leading up to him passing away. I never went to a movie with my father at all, and I think I only went to a movie with my mother once ever in life. But I watched tons of movies at home. Like, my mom was always on top of the, trends. So, like, again, I'm an old person and I'm about to date myself even more. So when VHS was a big thing at home, like when it was first breaking, my mom had to get VCR. Like she spent crazy money making sure we had a VCR in the house, and like every weekend she would go rent tons of movies for us to watch. She was always big on like cable TV and watching movies and stuff like that. So we always had kind of like, cable. And I remember being, this is how old I am. I actually remember the launching of the Disney Channel on cable. My mom went out of her way to make sure I had the Disney Channel, because this was before I moved to North Carolina at the time, and I was still living in Connecticut. And I remember the launching of the Disney Channel. I think this was like 82, 83. I would have to look it up exactly to know, but it was like early 80s, and I remember having it. It was like so cool. It wasn't, it's not like the Empire Disney has now. Like they have multiple channels and all that kind of stuff, and Nickelodeon launching, and how I love Nickelodeon because they had those kid-centric channels and all that cool programming. You had all that, stuff available. So it was just weird that they loved cinema. That's where I got my love of cinema from my parents. But I never really went to the movies with them. So my mom had a girlfriend, and she had kids our age, our cousins, because they were family. And because whenever she would take her kids to the movie, if it's something she thought that we wanted to see, because my mom was working all the time, she would take us. So I got a chance, but it was like, say we went to, 1 or 2 movies a year, she would take us to. So it was always like this huge, like, inspiring experience for me for some reason, because it just happened so rarely as a kid growing up. And I mean, this was pretty much, probably till I was like maybe like 10. I think around the time I was like 10, I moved to North Carolina. Then it was kind of a situation like Matthew was talking about, to go to a theater. It was at least a half an hour, 40 minutes away. It was only, I think, 3 theaters in the next closest town that I could go to pick from. And I think they either only had like, because this was a small area in the South in North Carolina, I think one theater had like one show, like one movie it showed. I think one had 2, the other had 3 at this time. And this is like mid 80s until like probably until high school. This is kind of what option I had. So you could see what you could see when you could see it. You were limited. And I went more, and as I got older, I didn't have a problem, like I would get a lot, do things around the house to earn a little money. And, my mom would take me and drop me off to the movies, but her going with me to the movies, no. Like I went to go see Transformers the movie as a kid. I went by myself. Like it was on my birthday. It came out around my birthday. I went to go see it. She dropped me off, picked me up. Batman 89. I saw a ton of movies as a kid, or sometimes my sister, I have a sister, she's like 2.5 years older, or my sister would, take me to the movies, or she would drop me off, and like she would go see one movie while I was going to see the other, and then we would just meet afterwards, and then my mom would pick us up, and boom, I would do that. So I always had that love, but it carried over for my mom's love, exposing me to the film. And my father is so young, and it just carried over to my life, and it just became like this event. I still kind of get that feeling whenever like I'm going to the movies. Like I always get kind of hype. It just is like a kind of a special like occurrence. But that shine, took me to like I'm 42, soon to be 43. That shine is kind of wearing off, and I'm kind of like I can kind of wait to watch that on video, because I know I'm gonna have a good home experience with it, because of my home theater. And shoot, I'm cheapy. I'm like everybody else. I'm trying to stretch a dollar as far as possible. So even when it comes out digitally, I don't always jump on it the moment it does. I'll wait for it to wait till it go on sale for like $14.99 or $9.99, or I'll wait sometimes, and shoot, you'll catch a sale on iTunes. You can catch some good movies for $4.99, and then like I'd load up, and then I could go back and rewatch the movies I like, but certain big movies like the Disney movies, you got to pay the full $20 for. So I'll pay, I'll go ahead and just get it when I get it. But it's a lot of factors that that play in part, and like I said, it doesn't get any easier because we have more and more movies that like I can't imagine like the visual aspect of Avengers: Infinity War. I couldn't imagine not seeing it at least once at the theater. I would have loved to go see it more than once. And I would have paid to go see it again, but it was so much other stuff coming out like back to back to back. This summer has been like crazy. We just had Incredibles 2. Now, in a couple of weeks, we got Ant-Man and Wasp. And then in between that, if you're a comics fan, we have things like on Netflix with Voltron review coming to the YouTube channel shortly. Just a plug for that. Luke Cage comes out in a couple of days on Netflix. It's so much stuff between TV, animated, film, for us to cover, and the barriers that come with the movie-going experience. Is it still worth it for us? Or can we say, hey, no matter how big a spectacle, because again, with these booming surround sound systems and multi-speaker systems you can have at home, the huge TVs, the 4K, the 1080p, that, looks just as stunning. I watch a ton of movies in my office on my 1080p, and I'll watch certain stuff now. Certain stuff that I watch on 4K is just like this extremely like sick. Like I went back and watched like Pacific Rim, the first one. I got to pick up the second one. I saw the second one at the theater and it was pretty good. And it's like the detail in the Jaegers that you see in 4K and like as it's raising up out the wall, it's like sick. But I don't watch everything like on the 4K. I still watch stuff on 1080p, and it looks just as good and just as good as when I saw it in the theater. Certain times I feel like it looks better even in certain situations. So you have to weigh those different things out because 40 to like I said, on average you're spending, let's say the average couple without even like I said with food or whatever, let's say average of $50 for a couple of two for food and concessions even and movie tickets. That's $40 to $50. Even if you were, like I said, going with an alternate option that you could rent it day and date for $20, you're still saving yourself like half. That's more, I have to say, is something. And we have all these companies right now. We have what was it? Was it AT&T buying or Time Warner? No, was it AT&T buying Time Warner and Warner Brothers and all that? You got all these companies like gobbling each other up, and why? And we got Netflix getting bigger and bigger, and they're releasing movie theater, somewhat theater quality movies, because it just depends. Somewhat theater quality movies on Netflix, just dropping them. It's like, surprise, new movie. And, we're getting more and more of that, and more of the things are, streaming and being able to get your hands on media quicker and on different devices in different places. So it's going to be interesting to revisit this conversation maybe 5 years from now. Are we still going to the theater in droves, or are these experiences are going to start being, they're going to be like, hey, they're going to split the audience because the companies will have more control. You look at Netflix, as long as people stay subscribed to Netflix, they can keep throwing content at us day after day, week after week, and more than likely they're going to get numbers. As long as people are staying subscribed, they're still getting that money. So when you think about the prints and putting out the different movie theaters, and you have to sell so many tickets for it to make money. If all these mega companies that are being formed now and these takeovers, Disney trying to get the Fox library and them rolling out their own streaming service to kind of compete with Netflix. We have, Amazon streaming like blowing up. They've built themselves up so fast over the past couple of years. It was, people were thinking that Amazon streaming was a joke, and they've gotten really serious, and they got heavy shows coming up out the gate. They got Lord of the Rings. I just saw a story last night, matter of fact, that they're going to do animated Robert Kirkman Invincible, rated R animated television show. As well as it's Seth Rogen and his partner that that doing Preacher, they're going to do a live action, so they're going to have a rated R animated show, and then they're doing them. I don't know what the movie's going to cover, but they're developing an Invincible live action movie as well. So it's a lot of different things on a lot of different fronts that is changing the face on how we're going to be consuming this content. But again, again, it's just something that, as I went to the movies, when I came up with the idea for this show was a couple of months back, and I just kind of looked around as I was in the theater, and I'm like, it's evolving, and it's becoming less special, and I feel like it's less me now, because there's so many, hurdles and obstacles that are attached to going to the movies. It still slightly holds a magical thing for me, but it's just not as special as it once was. It's becoming so kind of watered down, and it's kind of, I have a more emotional, I feel like at certain points my experience at home is a little bit more immersive. So I know that's just my thoughts, some of the thoughts I gathered from some of you guys. Again, I implore you to check out the Facebook group. I have links to everything on the website. Just go to comicbooksavant.com. You can hit me up on social media. It's a lot of big things coming down the pike. I've been hinting about it. Certain stuff I can't talk about now. You guys have helped me accomplish so much in terms of the show. I have big plans. I'm pushing harder than ever between not just the podcast. I want, at a certain point, once you've been doing something for long enough, you want it to evolve, and you feel like you put your blood, sweat, and tears in something, and you want it to be appreciated, and you guys have shown me in droves that you have, so I want to evolve it to be more than what it has been. You guys have been coming out. The YouTube channel's been I've been getting more and more subscribers by the day, so if you haven't already, go by the YouTube channel, youtube.com/comicbooksavant. Subscribe. I do, it's still all comic book related content. You get to see my ugly face, and you get to hear me talk about comics. I moved most of my TV show reviews there. I do non-spoiler movie reviews there. I do trade reviews of trade paperbacks I read. So I have a ton of that content built up there now. So you can go there exclusively to see that type of content. And again, it's, I think last check, total is almost about 150 videos on there, but I upload these audio podcasts as well. So far as original content, it's probably like half and half, because half would be about podcasts that are uploaded there. So if you don't catch this on iTunes or not subscribed to the show on iTunes, which I don't understand why you wouldn't be at this point, you can do that. But if you're on the run, you can always listen to the episodes directly off the website, because it's an embedded player. So you can just click on the episode and start listening to it from comicbooksavant.com. But if not, and you're on your phone and you're on the go, you can always just go to the YouTube channel and listen to the latest episode. As soon as I upload them, they Libsyn punches out one that uploads onto YouTube, and then I'm on the different streaming services. I'm on Stitcher. I'm on what's the other one? Is it iHeart? Or I can't remember all the streaming services. But just search for me. I'm on the different podcast apps as well, like Overcast and things like that. You guys have added me on, and then I've added myself on different places. So you can find the show multiple places. So don't ever worry about that. Also, don't forget, if you want to help support the show, you could do so if you consider becoming a Patreon. Go over to patreon.com/comicbooksavant. It's Patreon is patreon.com/comicbooksavant. I have different tiers. I'm gonna be doing a major relaunch, and we're gonna talk about it next month, coming up on the anniversary show. Or not next month, but in August. It's going to be some big things coming to the Patreon. It's going to be different tiers to give you guys some definite rewards if you do go in and become a Patreon on the show. I have tiers starting as low as $1 that will give you inside access, and goes up higher. But you can go, it's links to all this on the website as well. I have some new Patreons coming on. My friend Ron Sanders, listener of the show, got some major things coming up with Ron that I can't talk about right now. He's a listener, but he's also more. But I can't reveal everything right now because we got a lot of stuff going on in the works. But I'm trying to tell you, a lot of giveaways. It's crazy stuff too. Oh yeah, giveaways. It's going to be crazy towards the end of the summer, going into the anniversary of the show. So if you don't follow me on Twitter, you better follow me on Twitter. If you don't follow me on Instagram, you better follow me on Instagram. If you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, you better subscribe to the YouTube channel, because it's going to be giveaways everywhere. I'm going to do separate giveaways on all the different platforms. So you might miss out if you're not subscribed one place or another. It's going to be different giveaways. I'm trying to tell you, I got crazy plans in the works. I've been working hard behind the scenes to give you guys, just to show some of my love back to you guys from all the support you've given me over the years. I hope you enjoyed. Like, I've worked hard this year and giving you guys diverse content across the board, just like this episode, the new things like the countdown episodes. Just trying to evolve the content. It's still, you would think after 12 years of doing this, I would run out of stuff to talk about in the comic book industry. And it is funny, from just the love and support I've gotten from you guys. It's like I've probably produced more content this year than I ever have, between just not now with the audio podcast, but YouTube. And I just keep coming up with ideas like, this is something cool to talk about. This is something new to talk about. So I'm so pumped. And I appreciate you guys so much for all your support. Join these communities. I want the I miss the cult of Anubis, as we used to call it way back in the day. So definitely join the Facebook group. All you have to do is request. If you go to Facebook, if you just go on Facebook and just search for Comic Book Savant discussion group, you can just request to be in a group, and then as soon as I see it, I will approve you. I need more people in there. It's all about building community up. I want your guys' feedback. I want to bounce ideas back and forth from you and all that kind of stuff. So if you're a part of the group, and you can talk with other comic book fans about different stuff as well. I think I have rattled on enough for you guys for this week. That's all I have for this episode of Comic Book Savant. I will see you again next week for another episode. And you guys have a good weekend, and I'll see you soon. Take care.